At Ashley, you'll find colorful furniture that brings your home to life. Ashley makes it easier than ever to express your personal style with an array of looks in fun trending hues to choose from earth tones to vibrant colors to calming blues and greens. Ashley has pieces for every room in the house in the season's most sought-after shades. A more colorful life starts at Ashley. Shop in-store, online today. Ashley, for the love of home.
Summer is supposed to be an opportunity to slow down, but when you look at your kids, you can't help but notice that your kids are growing up fast. Help them build independence as they grow with Greenlight. Greenlight is a debit card and money app for families where parents can keep an eye on kids' money habits while kids learn how to save, invest, and spend wisely. It's the easy, convenient way to raise financially smart kids. Get your first month free when you sign up at greenlight.com/pod.
Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. See ebaymotors.com.
Welcome in to another edition of the JMU Sports News Podcast. I am Bennett Conlon, joined by Jack Fitzpatrick. And Jack, we are slowly inching our way through fall camp.
It feels like eternity. I was going into the StreamYard earlier, and I was cleaning it up to make sure that we had a clean broadcast for today. And I was deleting the video clips from last week, and that felt like 3 weeks ago. Like August 31st just cannot come soon enough, man.
2.5 weeks, 3.5 weeks, right?
3.5 weeks and
something like that.
No, 2.5.
3.5.
No, 3.5. Yeah. My fault.
We're getting there, though.
All right. Well, some housekeeping stuff at the top before we dive into kind of storylines out of fall camp. Daniel Merriman has been there, I believe, nearly every single day. Watching practice, covering practice, sharing his takeaways. You can check out all of his takeaways for the offensive side of the ball at JMUSportsNews.com. His defensive takeaways are coming shortly, so you can check all of that out at www.jmusportsnews.com. Also follow along on our Twitter, his Twitter as well, for all of the latest from fall camp. I'll be at fall camp tomorrow, unless I wake up and it's just absolutely flooded because of this hurricane that's coming. I should be able to make it out to Harrisonburg over the mountain and back without risking my life too much.
Just a little bit of a risk.
I don't know what to expect out of this hurricane.
It's not a full-fledged hurricane anymore.
It's like a tropical storm, and people are acting like we've never gone through a tropical storm before.
It'll be rain, it's some remnants and some rain, but it'll be some significant rain. So you gotta be careful in the rain. I think at least for near DC, Friday is where we're taking the brunt of it. Friday morning.
Okay. Well, we'll see what happens, but I plan to be on out there tomorrow. So keep it locked to our Twitter. That was just a long-winded way to say we'll have content coming out on Twitter on JMU Sports News. Like and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube.
Like and subscribe.
Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. More importantly, we'll have exclusive interviews with recruits coming out, podcast clips, and we'll have some really interesting stuff coming out on probably the YouTube, maybe more like positional breakdowns as we get closer. We'll see if our schedules allow for that. And while you're at all that, we got to buy me a coffee type thing going. That link is in the description of the podcast. So if you're listening to the podcast, you can click down there. If you're enjoying the content, you can buy us a coffee, or in Bennett's case, a tea, or in both of our cases, a beer.
Yeah, that's right.
More housekeeping stuff. BetOnline, the world's most trusted betting platform, and it's your number one source for everything online sports betting. Right now, you can receive a 50% free bet of up to $250 on your first deposit to bet on anything from the Olympics to baseball to Formula One racing. BetOnline has every stat, every matchup, and even live odds and spreads while the games are being played. When the game's over, head on over to our online casino and get in on a game, a blackjack, poker, or unwind with one of our over 150 slots games. Head to BetOnline today to get in on the action. Use promo code BELIEVE. That's promo code BLEAV for 50% free bet credit on your first deposit up to $250. So I've explained that before. I don't have to explain it again. Bet online where the game starts. And Bennett, one last housekeeping thing. You want to know what it is? Bennett, you picked a great time to freeze. This is absolutely an electric time to freeze, but I'm assuming Bennett's like, yes. Tell me more about this exciting stuff. Folks, we won't share all of the details around it just yet, but we are super excited to say that later this month, we will be launching another podcast and kind of turning this JMU Sports News podcast feed into a JMU Sports News podcast, quote unquote, network. So 2 different podcasts, same feed. So be sure to subscribe to the podcast wherever you're listening, whether it's Apple Podcasts, whether it's Spotify, whatever it may be. Subscribe to this podcast, and that way you will never miss an episode of the JMU Sports News podcast or this brand new podcast that we are super, super excited about coming later this month. First episode is slated for the week of August 26th, and then we are going to dive headfirst into it. All of that can be found right here on this podcast feed, right here on this YouTube feed, right here on our Twitter feed and Facebook feed, all under JMU Sports News. But a brand new podcast is coming later this month that we are pumped about.
Can't wait for that. Should be really exciting.
Yeah, you picked a great time to freeze on that one.
We're on the hot spot early today, earlier than I was hoping, but hey,
you got to this point. So Bennett, it's been fall camp.
Very camp-like, right? We're not getting a lot. I think Signetti was probably more open with the media than current head coach Bob Chesney. He's not saying a lot.
Which is weird, right? Because Chesney says a lot, but doesn't say anything. Kurt Signetti refused to answer QB1 questions and would be upset if you asked him anything kind of critical. But maybe it's because we knew him better. We had so many years of him, so you knew when he would say something, or if he mentioned a specific player, that means that player's doing great, or whatever it may be. He also just kind of would say a lot in a very little amount of words. You know, the Kevin meme from The Office, why say lot word when little do trick or something like that. Chesney's been talking a lot. I don't know anything about this team outside of what my eyes told me day one and what Daniel's eyes have been telling us every other day.
Daniel has given some good camp insights. So I, again, would check out his article on JMUSportsNews.com. Did a great job writing about the offense, has some good takeaways coming on the defense. Mostly expected things, I think, right? So like Dylan Morris looking like QB1 is not a surprise. Iowa Day looking very good at running back, not much of a surprise. Taji Hudson and Cam Ross at receiver being good, not a major surprise. So I think a lot of the stuff we expected kind of coming into fall camp seems like it's coming into fruition. I'm a little more interested maybe in the offensive line than I thought it would be. And then positional battles, right? So you're going to have battles probably for QB2 and then wide receiver, I guess outside of those top 2, the wide receivers. So some of the positional battles will be interesting to monitor. But in terms of like the superstars on the team and some of those basic things, I think we kind of knew a lot of those coming in. There's no like Alonzo Barnett is going to be the starting quarterback surprise coming this year. That was crazy last year. That's not happening again.
That was a surprise for a lot of reasons. Yes. I didn't listen to a single word you just said because I was typing some things. I want to be fully transparent with you. I was writing out some lower thirds to really enhance this video product that we have going. I did let that slide and I completely forgot about them until too late. I assume you said something about Chesney. What we know is nothing we didn't know already.
That is correct. Yeah.
Okay. If you're watching on YouTube, be sure to drop any of your comments, your thoughts from fall camp, your takeaways from fall camp in the comments. If you're on Twitter, you can reply. Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna keep an eye on it tomorrow when I'm there with the part of the practice that it's open to the media. I'm very interested to see kind of how the wide receiver room is shaking out,
Mhm.
because there's a lot of talk around Tajee Hudson. Daniel Merriman wrote about that. Tajee Hudson showing to be, I think he said, Velcro for hands. He hasn't dropped anything that Daniel has seen so far. Cam Ross is a speedster, and Cam Ross is a darn good wide receiver. His only issue has been injuries these last few years. But maybe it's because I just bought the hype from your video. I bought the hype from, watching the highlights of Breon Penny. I feel like he might slot in at wide receiver 1, and they'll use some 3 wide receiver sets, maybe with Penny, Hudson, and Ross. I'm not 100% sold just yet on Tajee Hudson being the wide receiver 1. And
Yeah,
that's
I
not to
still
take anything away from Tajee. That's just because Tajee does not have the workload that Penny does, that Ross does.
Yeah, he certainly hasn't proven himself too much at the college level yet, right? And he came into college as a quarterback and then moved to receiver. But I think he only has like 9 career catches, 8 last year. I think he only had the one at ECU, which was against Coastal Carolina in the bowl game, I believe. So he doesn't have a ton of proven experience. Penny had 26 catches last year, so a little more experience. Ross has had a few really nice years at UConn. So yeah, those two are a little more proven. I think Penny, as he learns the playbook, adjusts to things, I do think he'll kind of emerge from that pack. And then I also think Max Moss, the sophomore, kind of keeps getting mentioned. Chesney mentioned him at Media Day, I think, as a guy who's really competitive at the receiver spot. He's got good size. Signetti had him in the mix last year, too, which kind of says a lot. If you're a true freshman and Signetti's willing to toss you in there, you're very good at football. So I think Max Moss is a name we're not talking about. And my sort of hot take I'm working on, Max Moss might be the breakout player that everyone's sort of talking about Dylan Williams being. I think Max Moss is more polished at this stage of his career as a sophomore than Williams might be as a true freshman. I think they both have crazy high potential, but Moss seems like he's closer to an actual starting role than Dylan Williams, I would think.
Yeah, I'm still not entirely sold that Dylan Williams will be a go-to receiver this year. I'm also not convinced that Max Moss will be either.
I don't think either of them are go-to receivers because there's
I,
only so many guys who can touch the ball, right? You got a lot of running backs, you got a bunch
all
of
right,
receivers. But I mean, I think Moss is like, I don't know if any of them other than I think Cam Ross would be my only pick as like a go-to receiver.
Penny, Breon Penny.
I don't know that he's going to be a go-to. I think he's going to be like really solid. I just don't think he's not catching like 80 balls this year or something.
Yeah, so I guess when I say go-to, I mean more so like will be a part of the offense, because I truly see it right now as Cam Ross, Tajee Hudson, and Breon Penny, and then
Mm-hmm.
Taylor Thompson, Logan Kyle, and Kai Wright. Like that's 6 guys right there that are pass catchers. And then not to mention the running backs where you got Petaway and
Yeah.
Iowa Dei that I think are going to be big factors as well.
That makes more sense. And then I think a guy like Moss or Ymir Knight or your guy Dollison, who is he not your guy anymore? Your
He's
guy
kind of fun.
Dollison.
There's been no is he still on the roster? Maybe
He
I'll
is.
ask.
I've seen some clips.
I might have to ask specifically about him tomorrow just to get Bob Chesney. Or I guess it's player availability tomorrow. So maybe I'll just ask if they have Tajee Hudson available. So how's Omarion doing? Omarion.
You'll have to watch him get some reps in because he's one that's got crazy speed. I thought he might have emerged a little, but Chesney was saying after a recent practice, he's got 2 receivers and he hasn't really named names at all, which is where Signetti very much differed from Chesney because he would shout people out and then you knew that person was going to be a dog. So Chesney's not doing that, but he says 2 receivers have kind of separated themselves. Probably Ross and Hudson, right?
I would love a follow-up on that. Who?
Yeah, that would have. It's good advice for anybody who practice. That would have been interesting to know. But he said 2 receivers have sort of separated, and he wants to see. I think they might have actually asked about names originally. He didn't want to name anyone. But then
That makes more sense, yeah.
For other guys to pull out of the pack was sort of what Chesney said he was looking for. So he wants somebody at the 3, 4. That's where I think Penny and maybe Moss would be my bets if I had to pick 2 guys who I think are going to pull out of the pack.
All right, so quarterback. I love Daniel's line in the piece he put on JMUSportsNews.com. Dylan Morris is quarterback 1.
Mm-hmm.
He may have an unconventional release. He may look a little weird when he's throwing it, but he's quarterback 1. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. That man is starting against Charlotte on August 31st, And barring some type of injury that we can't predict, he's going to be the starter week in and week out. And I think we'll be able to orchestrate a pretty successful offense this year.
And he does have a weird release.
Dylan Morris may have the weirdest release I've ever seen from a collegiate quarterback, nay, a quarterback at any level of football.
Especially from the angle Daniel got that video from where he's holding the ball kind of weirdly back and like straight
The
down.
ball is
and looks like he
facing
cups
the
it right with
floor.
his wrist. It's strange, but hey, he's gotten the job done, right? He was honorable mention Pac-12 in 2020. He's a solid quarterback. There's a reason they brought him in. So I saw some people being like, oh my God, the Dukes are cooked. Opposing fan bases having fun with it, I think more so. But like, it doesn't really matter what his throw looks like when you're talking about the G5 level. You're just trying to win games and complete passes, and I think he'll be able to do that.
It's also not like an exaggeratedly long release. It's not
No,
like
it's
a
just
Tim
weird, yeah.
Tebow wind up from the
No.
hip. It's a pretty quick release. It just looks weird. Good velocity. It has a good angle on it. The wide receivers are reportedly really liking catching it.
Yeah.
It's not like the receiver's like, I've never caught this type of ball. He's throwing a real knuckleball out there, and we don't know how we're going to do it. It's a tight spiral each and every time. It's consistent, lots of velocity. It just looks flipping weird. But you know what else looked weird? Ben DiNucci's sidearm that like came out on 30% of his throws.
He did some weird stuff. Yeah, I mean, the delivery I'm not too worried about, but it was funny to see that video get some traction because it's indeed a weird release. And then it sounds like, at least from what Daniel was saying, Barnett's shown some nice stuff and maybe in the lead for QB2. Do you think they put in a special little Alonza package?
No.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
I don't think they'll put in an Alonza package because I just don't think Alonza has like head and shoulders better athleticism than Dylan Morris does.
No, if you're talking about like sort of the guy with elite size and athletic traits in the quarterback room, it's JC Evans. And I'm not sure they're going to put like a Tebow, Cam Newton power running package in for a true freshman. It kind of feels like they're going to roll with Morris. And then I think they would have different ways to tweak the offense if Barnett or someone had to come in. But I don't think it makes a lot of sense to have a package like that. Also, if you're doing something like that with running, couldn't you just do like a true Wildcat with like a Day or Petaway or
Mallory.
somebody? Yeah, Mallory. That seems like it might be a little more fun if they tried something like that out.
Yeah. Nathan in the comments asking about the secondary. We'll get to defensive side of the ball once we run through the offense, Nathan. I'm not forgetting about you over there. Running backs. You wrote about it today.
Yeah, I did.
Can I still say my worry that I wrote about before camp, where I had 3 questions heading into fall camp? One of them was, is this running game actually going to be good? You seem to think that they are. I don't want to be insane, though, man. It feels like we're running through the same exact storylines we ran through last year.
I just think they're more committed to running the ball effectively. Like, I think they're going to have a better offensive plan than Cignetti did last year. I think they're going to be more creative about how they run the ball. I think
But wasn't Cignetti committed to running the football?
Cignetti. Cignetti seemed committed to just running the ball directly up the middle on the first down. Like, he didn't show any variety in the first 5 weeks, and we were pulling our hair out because there was no creativity. And we were like, oh my God, what if you did something like, I don't know, a jet sweep? And then they worked one in for Dawson against like South Alabama and it went for 25 yards. It's like, oh my God, like what are the chances that when you try something slightly different offensively, it could work when you have really good athletes? I think Dean Kennedy, Chesney, they're going to cook stuff up in the running game that's way more creative. I think the offensive line is good. I think they've also added some weight at some of those positions where maybe those guys will have a little more of a push. I think they're deeper up front, which is huge. And I think maybe the biggest thing, I think the running backs are a lot better at football.
Yeah, the running backs are. It's a much different running back room. Chase Kitty on YouTube. Very rude of you guys to preempt my own preview publish schedule by 15 hours, in my opinion. Chase, everyone read Chase's story in 15 hours. There we go. We're pushing
Everyone
traffic.
also read Chase's North Dakota State JMU story and shame him for his take.
Yeah, shame him for saying JMU should travel to North Dakota State.
We're so far above them. Just don't look at the series history, though, please.
Yeah, man, we really only beat them once, and it came in a really big moment. But like,
well, we would have the one loss would have been a win if it was in Bridgeport. That's Cignetti astutely pointed out.
That's a good point, and
that's a win in my book.
If Terrence Alls doesn't have that drop over the middle.
Terrence Alls catches it. Basically, that's what, 3 in a row against them? That's good
and if
stuff.
Cignetti didn't just rush the edges straight up the field against Trey Lance.
Chase really took us on a
God.
sidetrack.
Where were we? Oh, yeah, this running back room is actually like good at football. And that's no shade to Kalon Black because we thought he was really good.
Sounds like shade.
I don't mean it in a rude way. I only mean it in like a slightly rude way.
Respectfully.
Respectfully, they sucked.
They did struggle though. Like, I don't know if it was maybe they got nicked up at times. And like Lawton had his moments, Black had his moments. It just wasn't consistent enough at all. I think they're going to be a lot better. The one thing I will say is like the running back depth talk is like slightly overrated.
Really?
Because I mean they're deep, but there's a difference between like Adai's like awesome. I think Petaway is a freak from watching some of his limited UNC highlights, just super talented, but he's not quite running over people. Mallory can run over people, and then Tyler Purdy and Wayne Knight are just very solid.
Wayne Knight has exited the portal.
But like if Adai gets hurt, it does change the dynamic of the room pretty significantly. Or if you have 2 of them banged up, right? There's a difference between like Adai getting 15 carries and Tyler Purdy getting 15 carries. Not that Tyler Purdy is bad, just Adai is like an elite level G5 back. So they're deep if they all stay somewhat healthy and you have, I guess, one of the 3-headed monster available at all times.
Who's the 3-headed monster in your view?
In my book, that's going to be Adai, Petaway, and then Mallory. I think Mallory's really slept on.
I'm so excited to watch Joby Mallory run the football. I feel like there is a 50-yard rumbling, tumbling, bumbling type of just event to occur with Joby Mallory this season.
He's a really fascinating player. So I'm excited to see him play. It's also funny because they've shown some like clips from camp or whatever, right? And you'll see like the running backs working out. It seems like a linebacker like lost his place on the field, where he like accidentally stumbled into running back drills. Like that man is huge.
Yeah, he's a large man. He's going to be good at football.
I just like that group more. So I do think they're going to run the ball well, which makes me happy because I think the passing game still has legit questions in my book.
I think this passing game will be good, and this might be like a really dumb thing to say, but the passing game will be good if the running game is good. Like last year, the passing game was good despite the running game being terrible. The opposing defenses could literally put 4 down linemen, 1 linebacker, and then just bring out the rest of his defensive backs. Just cover. Just have fun out there. And you still couldn't run in a very weak box. Now, this season, I think you're going to need them to stack the box and have an effective run game where they're bringing in some bigger bodies that may free you up or give you single coverage or one over the top safety that gives Cam Ross, Tajee Hudson, and the rest of the wide receiver room opportunities. So I think you're going to need a good running game for this offense to find a passing rhythm this year.
Yeah, I think that's certainly doable, but I'm interested. I'm also interested on the offensive line. I think something that I didn't piece together, I'm not breaking any news here, but something I didn't totally piece together is that like I had forgotten that Wyatt had gotten injured last year. So I think that's a storyline that I hadn't paid a lot of attention to, where like he suffered a season-ending injury like in November. So I don't know if they have to go slow with him to get him back or if they ease him in during the season.
Was it that late in the season?
It was an ODU game, I think, which was late October. So I'm guessing surgery wasn't until November. I think that's what it was.
Why did I think it was he got injured? Like, was Utah State Kidwell?
Yeah.
Okay, I mixed him up in my head.
So I had forgotten that or that timing. I thought he might have been earlier. So that's something to keep an eye on, especially with Jesse Rammel's gotten crazy good press. The St. Francis transfer talked with Dave Riggert and said he's playing left tackle. So I thought that was one that was interesting, if nothing else, that he sounded like he's getting a lot of run at left tackle. Seems like a good player. I don't know. Maybe that's a luxury of bringing him in that you can go a little slower with Wyatt if you need to. So the left side of the offensive line is interesting because then left guard, is Carter Sweezy the guy? Is someone else the guy? I don't know. The right side, you got Tanner Morris at center, Cole Potts at right guard, Patrick McMurtry from Holy Cross at right tackle. I don't think that's changing, but I am interested to see what the left side looks like for for week 1 is Charlotte.
Quincy Jenkins, also a transfer from Campbell that came in.
He could play in guard, right at left guard. He's a good player.
So it'll be interesting to see how it all shakes out. With Rammel, it is because Wyatt last year was the starting left tackle. So with Rammel saying that he's been taking these reps at left tackle is interesting. We'll see how it shakes out because I feel like with McMurtry's size, he's not really a guard. So you can't really.
He's going to be tackle. He's going to be right tackle, like for sure, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. So like what I'm saying is like you can't like pop him inside and put,
I wonder if when Wyatt gets healthy, because I think didn't he used to be a guard and Signetti moved him out? Like, could you stick him at left guard, or is that getting a little too cute with it? And you maybe just have Rammel and like Wyatt rotate at left tackle.
I feel like you're getting a little too cute with it. Like you can bounce a center and guard in between, like those swing guys who can just plug and play in the interior. I feel like when you get to the tackles, you have swing tackles where they can play left or right, but it's not often that you see a guy. Maybe I'm wrong.
Josh Toner
can play like every position on the offensive line.
He's another interesting one because he's not slotted in my starting unit, but like could also play anywhere.
Well, I mean, if you look at it, the last 2 deep that they had against Air Force, and even I think against Coastal, ever since Wyatt was injured, I think that entire 2 deep came back. It's the only position group where it was all returning.
They did get they've got a lot of talented guys there, yeah.
And they brought in a transfer in Rammel, a transfer in Jenkins, and a transfer in McMurtry. So will be interesting to see how that all plays out. McMurtry, I don't know if you saw the Montpelier Collective video with the offensive line roundtable. McMurtry, I believe they said, was the first ever to get a quadruple double, meaning he got an appetizer, 2 entrees, and a dessert at O'Neill's.
That's impressive. Don't think I could do that.
I don't think you could.
No chance. So the offense, I think, is going to be good. I think they'll be a good top-tier Sunbelt unit. Camp has not changed any of my feelings outside of questions on the left side of the offensive line based on the Wyatt Rammel stuff. And then wide receiver depth. There's still apparently a lot of jockeying for position there.
Any thoughts on tight end?
They seem really high on Taylor Thompson and Logan Kyle, at least.
Thank you. Finally a coaching staff is getting on the Taylor Thompson train.
And that's what Daniel Merriman was saying, that Taylor Thompson's looked really, really solid. So my guess is that, like you were saying earlier, they used the tight end in the passing game significantly more than Signetti did.
I wouldn't be shocked if we're seeing a lot of 2 tight end sets with like 1 tight end off of the line
At Ashley, you'll find colorful furniture that brings your home to life. Ashley makes it easier than ever to express your personal style with an array of looks in fun trending hues to choose from earth tones to vibrant colors to calming blues and greens. Ashley has pieces for every room in the house in the season's most sought-after shades. A more colorful life starts at Ashley. Shop in store or online today. Ashley, for the love of home.
I'm excited. I think Logan Kyle and Taylor Thompson may cause a lot of issues. I want to see a tight end used like, was it Clayton Cheatham when he started his career with 4 catches, 4 touchdowns? I want to see that type of usage again. Play action seams all day.
I'd like to see some creativity. I think they could do some stuff with Morris under center too, and shotgun, some different formations there that could really stress defenses out. I hope they do.
I'm interested to see what Dean Kennedy's offense is like too.
Yeah.
Because the sample's so small. He had Sluka a lot last year, just playing out of the shotgun. Is there a Dean Kennedy under center type of offensive setup?
I could see it.
Chase Kitty with an epic comment, hoping for a new recruiting scale based around cookie skillets. JMU is in the hunt for a 4 cookie skillet defensive back.
I like that. I think we need that. And then the offensive line, I think it should also relate to like how many cookie skillets they could put down in a sitting. Like this is a 24 cookie skillet prospect.
That's a freshman.
That's
part of their official visit. They have to go to O'Neill's and just chow on cookie skillets. If they're under 20, if they're over 20, those are the type of offensive line.
Yeah, maybe you're not like made for the culture if you're under 20, you know.
Exactly. You want to flip to the defensive side of the ball?
Let's do it.
Nathan asked, thoughts on the secondary? Is it better than last season?
I don't know if it'll be better. I think it'll give up fewer big plays because Cignetti was basically like, we stop the run. That's what we do. And then it was like, well, you guys gave up like 4 40-yard touchdowns today. He's like, do you see that rushing total they had? It's like -12.
It's like, yes, Ignetti, it's because they just passed it.
So my guess is that they're maybe having a little more safety help. They're maybe a little less focused on like anything possible to stop the run. So I think the numbers it will be less glaring at times. I don't know if they're going to be better or not. There's a lot of like talented veteran questions, right?
The growth of Chauncey Logan from his sophomore season to junior season is something huge to watch out for. Also huge to watch out for is who is getting reps at safety.
Yeah.
Because the safety position last year with Cheese Surratt, Jacob Thomas, DJ Barksdale left a little bit to be desired. And I think a reason for a lot of the big plays that were given up were corners expecting safety help and just the rotations not happening exactly when they had to, or a poor angle was taken. Something where kind of your last line of defense, the safeties, they're responsible for making sure it doesn't happen. Seemed at times those weren't necessarily always happening, and the defense was susceptible to those explosive plays. It also could have been because they were bringing the safeties up into the box to try and stop the run, because all Cignetti cared about was stopping the run and having the number one rush defense in the entire group of 5 and overall FBS. I will say the secondary has been getting a lot of love, especially early on in camp, from Chesney. So I think it's not necessarily better right now, but I don't think it's worse. I think losing D'Angelo Pons is a really big blow, but I believe that the people that they've brought in, Ray Williams, Chris Sheeran, my boy Jordan Taylor, if you haven't watched
Yeah.
his Tusculum highlights,
He's
I
good.
urge, get to a computer, type in Jordan Taylor Tusculum highlights and enjoy, because that man is a run stuffer. He plays with swagger. They called him Jordan Island or Taylor Island. Dude's I think he might be cornerback too. But the people they brought in, I think should be able to at least maintain what they were last year. Plus, it's hard to get worse than what they were last year.
That is a very
Respectfully.
That's a very good point. I'm interested in safety. A name that I'm keeping a little bit of an eye on is Kai Holmes, redshirt junior. He's played a little bit over the last few years. He had 18 tackles in 2021. He's played, I think, a lot on special teams. Got a shout out from Chesney the other day about it. There was a question about Jacob Thomas, and the question was like, how is he run as a leader or something? And Chesney cited an example of him telling Kai Holmes to like focus on the next play after Kai Holmes made a spectacular play. And I was like, I was blocking out all the leadership, like coach speak stuff. And I was like, Kai Holmes, spectacular play. And playing alongside Jacob Thomas, it sounds like. So I thought that was somewhat interesting. I want to see how he develops, even though there's a lot of veteran pieces in that room. Also, Lyle Hemphill, defensive coordinator, a lot less coach speak than Chesney and Kennedy. So he did a recent media availability, and he talked about how in the spring portal they wanted a lot more athleticism in the secondary, and he feels like they got it. He also wants guys, like, very simply, and this makes sense, who can cover and
Really?
tackle.
Whoa!
Which I realize how simple it is, but there were times last year where you watched that secondary, and I'm not naming names, but it felt like there were some guys out there who like
Respectfully.
couldn't cover or couldn't tackle, or at times could not do either. So I do think like the guys they brought in are going to look pretty good because they played a ton of football. All of them on their film can cover. And like Jordan Taylor, you mentioned him, very physical tackler. So I think it's a much different like breed of defensive back that they have brought in. And it was very intentional, and it's kind of simple, but like it makes a lot of sense.
Jordan Taylor also has the ball skills of an elite wide receiver.
He was making like toe tap interceptions.
He can track a football better than Division II wide receivers.
Yeah, he's got some game. So
I also think he's fully healthy now. Not to get on a Jordan Taylor complete sidetrack, but like his freshman year, he was like all conference second team. Only played a few games in 22, I think it was, and then 23 he was good, but not his 21 self. and I think he was still recovering from an injury or playing through an injury. I think 2024, he's fully healthy. I'm very excited to see Jordan Taylor.
Yeah, they have some options there. I'm excited about safety, especially because like I still think Chase Regan's a dog.
Yeah,
A lot of
Chase Regan,
speed.
dog. KJ Flo is a dog in college football 25.
He's got a lot of talent too. And what do they list him at nickel?
Yeah.
And there's not that many guys listed at nickel. It's like Ja'Kai Young, DJ Barksdale. Like, wouldn't be shocked if he works his way into that spot pretty quickly, or at least gets competitive. So I don't know. I think it's probably a deeper secondary, right, than last year.
Who's your guy this year? Because you had Chauncey Logan 2 years ago. You were like, this freshman, watch out for. Last year it was D'Angelo Pons. You were like, this guy, why? You
I
seem to
got
have.
early on the Ponds train. I was pounding that.
You were
I was
early
so
on the
happy when he
Chauncey
became the
Logan
guy.
train. I think so too.
Well, some of it was because Signetti had his tells where he would like mention Ponds, and then there'd be a video of Ponds like running with a good team, getting a couple like fall camp interceptions and stuff. And I was like, oh my God, this is a superstar. That's a good question. I think I don't know if I can take Reagan because that is Ben Hofer's guy. So could that be my guy?
It could be your guy.
I don't know. I don't feel comfortable doing that.
It also could be any of the transfers.
It could be a transfer.
Yeah, because I'm going to say your thing, you can stake your claim on these new guys. So, like, mine's
It
Jordan
has to be a
Taylor.
new guy.
Jordan Taylor's taken.
I kind of want to have the resurgence of Chauncey. Like I want Chauncey to be my
Okay.
guy again.
You can.
I think he's going to have a huge year. I'm excited for Chauncey Logan because the athleticism's there. Just felt like at times maybe he was out of position. I think Chauncey Logan. I talked about the Heisman campaign last year. I was a year premature. I think this is the year we talk about the Heisman campaign.
All right, I like it. Kyrie Mans was changed to edge rusher.
Good to finally see that.
You excited for this edge rushing group?
I think so. I mean, if we're talking about like my guys, Eric O'Neal's really my defensive guy this year.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
So I love that dude. He's going to be a monster on the edge. It sounds like Lloyd Summerall is a beast, especially based on what we've heard from the video game.
He is a monster in that video game. You know who else is a monster in that video game? Emmanuel Bush up the middle.
Dude, he's going to be good too. He's down on the roster to 315. So I don't know if that 328 was like coming out of like before they got into camp and they're like, all right, too many D-Hall visits. So they got him maybe a little bit slimmer than he was a few weeks ago. But 315's not slim. He's a large dude, going to be a monster in the middle. Mans, I think, is good off the edge. I think there'll be Mar Thomas. I feel good about the edge. More questions maybe in the middle.
Really?
Bush is good, right? I think we can chalk him up to being good.
Michael McMullen.
McMullen might be a star.
He's the guy that Pons was last year. He's getting a lot of hype, it seems.
If you're picking like an underclassman to shine, I think McMullen is the guy. 6'1", 285 from Newport News, Virginia. Very, very good. Emmanuel Bush was on with Dave Riggert, and he said that last year in like practice and when he got in the games, he was like, Mike was just like this raw talent, clearly very good. And then he said he's transformed into a beast this offseason. He said he's been playing with him in practice and he's thinking to himself, it's crazy I get to share the field with this guy.
Who's saying this?
Bush. So like you might want to enjoy McMullen this year because he's playing at P5 next year. Mark it down. Everyone's going to get mad at me. But he, like, if you're looking for guys who are going to get crazy, like Pons, get crazy Power 5 attention potentially, and like tampering things, kind of feels like McMullen's the one that teams are going to look at. He seems like he is just a star in the making.
So McMullen, you got him there with Emmanuel Bush. Terry Lockett?
Terry Lockett's an interesting one because I guess he played more defensive end than I realized at Syracuse, but
he was almost primarily a defensive end at Syracuse, but he's a big boy.
You're not playing it outside for JMU at 280, I don't think. He's got to rotate somewhere. Maybe it's like if it's like a third and short, he's on the end. Maybe if it's a passing situation, he's inside. He'll work in, right? He played at Syracuse and was productive there. I would imagine he works in, but McMullen seems like he might be a monster. You can't really take Bush out that much. Fitzgerald, Youngstown State transfer, was also really bulky and has to be in at times. They got options.
They do. So
But
why are you worried about the middle then?
I guess because it's hard for me to buy the like redshirt freshman hype until I see it. That always happens with me, is I can't buy the hype until I see a little more. Like a lot of the transfers, they have tape you can see, and you're like, oh yeah, that guy's really, really good.
Like Jordan Taylor.
Yeah. So I've got some questions there, but it sounds like McMullen is the real deal and has a chance to like start in the middle.
Just looking at other quick names. Marcellus Nash, maybe. No, he's not.
He's
big enough.
young.
He's another true freshman. He's very good on college football. That's why I brought him up.
They've got some interesting names there. DJ Cotton Jr. got some ability.
Samson Aguande.
He's huge.
6'4", 308.
That gets me excited.
I will say, I think a bit of it too is they're so deep on the edges. I wouldn't be shocked if Hemphill, the defensive coordinator, does some weird stunts or weird things where, like, to get Summerall and Kyrie Mans and Eric O'Neal all on the field at the same time. Maybe you do a one defensive tackle and like two DNs on one side and a DN on the other. Because to bring you back to like the NFL kind of wide view, when the Seahawks had their really good defenses back in the Legion of Boom days, they had their NASCAR package, and Dan Quinn then brought that with him with the Cowboys, where it's essentially just like the fastest guys get on the field. So maybe you get some NASCAR-esque packages, which would be fitting in Charlotte, North Carolina, home of NASCAR.
I would like to see it. I'm intrigued by the defense overall. Linebackers, I feel great.
I almost feel too good about the linebackers. God, that's going to be a soundbite that's going to come back to bite me in the butt in a few months. But they're going to run a 4-2-5, right, with Lyle Hemphill?
That's what they did at Duke. I assume that would be what they roll out.
I'm like, there's multiple linebackers that I like enough to start there. Like, I love Torres Jones, but I think Trent Hendrick may be starting over him. Trent Hendrick, like, is leading the stretch circles and like the stretch portion of camp. So he's like a vocal leader of the team. That makes me believe that he could be potentially the starting linebacker alongside Jacob Dobbs. And I think Jacob Dobbs is a foregone conclusion that he's one of the linebacker starters.
Yeah, after practice on Tuesday, Chesney was also shouting out Torres Jones and said he was phenomenal on a goal line period during practice, and also said that Raymond Scott's coming into his own, Ray Scott from Fresno State, and then had mentioned that Gannon Weathersby, a sophomore that Daniel Merriman, I think, has been high on. Hopefully I don't spoil anything from his article. But Chesney gave some love to Gannon Weathersby as well. That's like 5 deep, and you only need 2 of them. So I don't know. I feel good. Are we too high on this team? Because I feel like that's one of my worries right now, is that there's a lot of Kool-Aid that's being passed around. I think some of it is that Bob Chesney, every day is the greatest day in the world. So you're not getting any like negatives out of camp. But it seems like there are a lot of positives right now.
There does seem to be a lot of positivity.
Too many? Too much?
Yes.
For us, right? For us, for sure.
I mean, we've been called a lot of things, and one of them is not positive. So this is something. I think they'll be good. Now the question is, game at Charlotte. I guess this is the perfect segue into kind of the season preview. Game 1 at Charlotte. Keep it locked to our YouTube. Early next week, we'll be sitting down with Hunter Bailey, a beat reporter that covers the 49ers for the Charlotte Observer, talking, previewing the game, really going into it, get to learn the 49ers overall roster. He's been at camp. It's going to be a fantastic video on our YouTube, so be sure to like and subscribe. But I feel like it's something we've said a lot with the wide receivers. It's something we've just said a lot in general with this team. They have the potential. They have the ability. There are so many things that make potential never live up to what it can be. It seems like they have a good coaching staff to do so, but you never really know until you step, pardon the cliches that are coming, but you never really know until you step in between the white lines, you put on the helmet, and you get hit. Everyone has a plan until they get hit. And they look good on paper. So did the dream team Philadelphia Eagles, back in 2013. And I think they ended up going like 6-10 that year.
That team sucked, yeah.
but on paper they looked great. You remember the team I'm talking
Who
about,
called
right?
them the dream team?
I think it was Vince Young, the backup
That's what
quarterback.
it was. That's what it was.
Speaking of a guy who never really lived up to his potential, Vince Young.
Yeah.
But I think there's so many things around it. And game 1 at Charlotte, that's a tough game to get this going with.
Is it?
At Ashley, you'll find colorful furniture that brings your home to life. Ashley makes it easier than ever to express your personal style with an array of looks in fun trending hues to choose from earth tones to vibrant colors to calming blues and greens. Ashley has pieces for every room in the house in the season's most sought-after shades. A more colorful life starts at Ashley. Shop in store or online today. Ashley, for the love of home.
Okay, hater.
No, I'm not sure. I've gone back on this 100 times. They have a lot of raw talent. I was listening to Biff Poggi today, some of his press conference. He's still doing the cutoff. All right. But he was talking about how like Max Brown's crazy talented at quarterback, right? But he's still really young and like they got to get some of the mistakes out of him. Is he going to look like a competent quarterback in week 1? Or is he going to throw like 3 picks against the Lyle Hempel defense that focuses entirely on creating turnovers?
Look, I was watching some Max Brown tape. Maybe I've drank too much 49ers Kool-Aid because they were signing my paychecks for a little bit.
Max Brown's got a ton of traits, but like there's a reason he's not at Florida anymore.
All right, hater.
Right? No, like no offense to Max Brown, but like if his traits were consistently coming out, he would still be a Gator. Like their head coach is on the hot seat. Clearly he's not ready to be an SEC starter. Is he ready to make like a mediocre AAC team good? Maybe.
But okay, I guess my main point is they're another team with a lot of talent and they're at home. This is a road game. This was a defense last year under Biff Poggi, and I forget their defensive coordinator's name. That had it. I think his name started. I think it's like Ryan something. His defense. Ryan Osborne is one of the best defensive coordinators at the Group of 5 level, according to a lot of like industry insiders who kind of rank those types of things. That made me sound more plugged in than I really am. But he's supposed to be a really good defensive coordinator, and his defenses showed that last year. They ranked in the top half of the American Athletic Conference and EPA. They consistently held teams down. They gave teams fits. The offense never held up its side of the bargain, but it worries me that like the biggest question mark we have for this team is the offense, and it's going to be like pulling teeth to score 24 points.
Maybe, but is Charlotte going to score 10?
Maybe.
They might suck. Like I think they're well.
They also might not.
No, I think defensively they still have some guys that I like, but like offensively, I'm not sold on their line. He's bringing in a lot of Power 5 transfers, which is like sick on paper. And then you start playing the game on the field, and you're like, oh, that's why that guy's not at Texas anymore.
Maybe I'm going crazy, but like, is this not what we say for us?
No, who's the like Power 5 guy that everyone's
Dylan Morris.
Max Brown didn't win like SEC honorable mention in 2020
because he wasn't in college. Now I feel like I'm just.
That's what I'm saying. He's young and hasn't done anything, and he's their starting quarterback without even a competition. That doesn't seem great for their quarterback room. I'm not saying I think it could be sneaky tough, but then you were getting me all sold on this home field advantage. They've been horrendous at home. The last dreadful,
because they're a horrendous team, but their fans show out. Did you watch the Duke game on CBS Sports Network in 2021?
What year was that? Did I watch the game in 2021? No, I did, but it's not 2021. It's not 2021. They don't have Reynolds walking through the door at quarterback.
They don't have Grant Dubose at wide receiver either, an NFL wide receiver.
I'm not sold, and also that's one too, where like. I know it's week 1. You got to gel, and there's some challenges there for JMU for sure. New coaching staff, all that stuff. If you can't beat Charlotte, like, yeah, we shouldn't have been talking college football playoff at all. And then, like, maybe we'll talk later in the year about contending for a Sun Belt title. But if you can't beat Charlotte, you're looking at like, I don't know. You're looking at what, like a 7-win, 8-win team, maybe that goes to a bowl, which is fine.
you're right. And I'm partly saying all of this and being this guy who's just worried about Charlotte because I'm almost preparing myself for the absolute worst so that when it happens, I'm not absolutely gut wrenched and devastated crying on my floor for 3 days.
I mean, I think Biff Poggi has had like a very cool career, right? He's done a lot of different things. His
Hedge
football
fund
coaching career
manager.
is impressive. Chesney's a better coach than him.
Yeah.
Chesney's going to have them more prepared, I think. I don't know. This is one that I would be really kind of disappointed and a little bit shocked if JMU lost. I don't think it's impossible because you're right. Charlotte does have some. That's what I was thinking with Chase Kitty there at the bottom. Are we sure Charlotte will have more fans than JMU at the game? I'm not.
I am.
But do we think it's like a lot? Because I feel like there's going to be a ton of purple.
I think there'll be a good amount of purple, but like Charlotte cares deeply about their sports. They will care in week
I
one.
want to see the attendance though last year.
I'm trying to get out of the comment. They will care week one because there's hope.
I want to see their home opener last year with fans. I'm going to look it up.
Check their home opener against Duke.
That's not, no, they had a good team and Healy was like still viewed as like an up and coming coach. That's not fair. That's not a fair comparison.
Their fans are
and isn't
excited.
that like post-COVID where they're like all excited to go to a game?
Their fans are excited for this game.
They're fans.
Also, this game is being like included in like their bundles. So like buy 3 game, like buy the JMU game, get like a free game later on this season.
They opened with South Carolina State last year, which is not a great.
That's not
15,000. What's their capacity?
Like 15,000.
Oh my God. Home field advantage. They were 1-5 at home last year. The only team they beat was South Carolina State. I'm not sold now. You're telling me about this home field advantage, and then I looked it up and I was like, wait a second. They've been dreadful at home.
All right, we'll see. Well, I want JMU to win. I'm not petitioning.
No, I'm not sure this game's hard anymore. You got me sold. You tried to convince me, and now I might be out.
I'm not arguing. Chase said, Jack, they ranked 125th in attendance last year. LOL. I get it. They weren't good.
Then why is this a concern at all?
What I'm saying is there's going to be hope around the program this first
for a
week.
quarter. And then they're not gonna be able to run block, and they're gonna be eaten alive. Jacob Dobbs is gonna have like 15 tackles in like 30 minutes of action.
Maybe also partly playing into all of this is the fact I lost to Charlotte in my very first game in college football 25.
I have had a lot of dreams that they've lost to Charlotte.
See? Probably because I've inceptioned you into thinking that with all my talk about it being a tough game.
Okay, so let's go through the schedule here, because the schedule, and I think this is worth noting, especially as we go through camp and our listeners hopefully grow, but I assume will grow. If you're talking college football playoff, the way you have to root for JMU is a lot different than you're talking about like just winning the Sun Belt and having a 9-3 season.
Yeah, I know you hated the year last year because they weren't winning by enough.
No, but that's going to be a real thing this year. It's like margin of victory because it's going to affect all your metrics. Quality of wins, right? Strength of schedule is a thing. JMU fans love to rag on Liberty. The schedule on paper is bad, like very, very weak, and could definitely hold JMU back from getting into the playoff on paper.
Yes. Their best game is at UNC against a Tar Heels program that is expected to have a down year.
They'll win 7 or 8 probably because their schedule is so weak. But yeah, they're not great. We already went through how Charlotte's a dumpster fire. Gardner-Webb FCS team. Ball State bad. ULM bad. Coastal Carolina, not sold on them yet.
No quarterback, second-year head coach who shouldn't show success in first year. Bad.
Georgia Southern,
good.
Could be solid.
Clay Helton has shown that he is a good coach. If they have the right quarterback in there, they will be good.
But that's not going to like boost your strength of schedule. Good for them might be like 80th nationally or something, Maybe it's a little better.
It might be a little bit better. Aren't they your dark horse to win the East?
I like them. I think they're a lot of fun. It's just they've had some times where they like are just 6-6, but like spicy 6-6.
Chase
Yeah,
commented, Jack blinked twice if the Charlotte AD is holding your girlfriend hostage. Look, Mike Hill would do no such thing.
Okay, Southern Miss, bad.
Bad.
Georgia State, bad.
Trash program.
Old Dominion,
Good.
they're not good.
I think ODU will be good.
I don't think they're good. And then you got App State and Marshall. I don't know, man.
Good.
The schedule.
Actually, Marshall
Is
doesn't have a
Marshall
quarterback.
good?
Marshall doesn't have a quarterback.
Marshall's going to the air raid this year, which could either be like surprisingly entertaining or just a dumpster fire, desperate ploy for like Charles Huff to stay employed.
I think it's the latter.
So I don't know. It's like, I don't know. Schedule's really favorable. Roster looks good. Everything out of camp is super positive. You go out there and you go 7-5, I'm going to be just despondent.
There are two places on this schedule that I have circled that are very big game/areas of the schedule. First one is that UNC game on September 21st. If they want to make it to the college football playoff, that is as near of a must win I think it can be.
Or maybe you lose by like 3 and they win 9 games or something, and you're 12-1 with a Sun Belt championship. Maybe that's enough.
If maybe.
You might need a little help somewhere else, depending on what else happens in the other conferences.
If you want to control your own destiny and get a statement win that puts you into the national spotlight, you got to beat North Carolina at North Carolina. That will automatically mean you're receiving votes, potentially even ranked after week 3. And then depending on how the rest of the season plays out, you're then ranked for the rest of the season, which is big.
Yes, that would be helpful.
Second part of this schedule is right at the end. November 16th, November 23rd, and November 30th against Marshall. That 3-week stretch, road, home, it's difficult. I think ODU, even if you think they're going to be bad, I get it. You're a hater. I get it. But ODU played them real tough last year at Bridgeforth.
What about the year before?
Okay, you were throwing out my 2021 examples. You can't go back and use 2022 examples.
That was the same program, though, that was led by Ronnie. They went into Norfolk and smoked them.
You're right. Yeah. But then what did ODU do last year? Which is more...
They did linger. They've been scrappy. I like Ronnie a lot. I think there's going to be somebody on the schedule that we think is not great that is going to surprise. I think that's fair.
Can't overlook a quote-unquote rivalry game at their place after you smoked them at their place last time and then won a nail-biter last year.
I don't think they should overlook any of the games. I just don't. I'm not scared.
All right, Coach, 1 second. Let me get out my trusty Phil Steele.
I don't know that Phil Steele is gonna rag on the Monarchs, but I don't think he's that high on them.
No, that's not what I'm looking for.
Okay.
This is great podcasting. Just bear with me 1 second.
But the schedule, the more I look at the schedule, the more I hear about the roster. I think you get that Charlotte game, you start to roll. You're going to have a really strong start to the season. I would think Georgia Southern on the road is going to be a tough one in the middle of the year. And certainly ODU, App State, Marshall has some challenges at the end of the year. But I don't know. It feels like they could have a very special season if the pieces kind of click together. Go ahead.
This is what's so difficult, especially about the at ODU and at App State. ODU is coming off of a bye, and App State is coming off of a bye.
Well, that's a good factoid.
Thank you. That's why I need my Phil Steele.
I think App State's the best going into the season. App State to me is like the best team in the Sun Belt.
I also think they're the best at hitting their own players with helmets.
That was shocking, yes.
But those are the factors and the parts of the schedule that I'm looking at. If you can handle your business across those 4 games, I think you're in the college football playoff. If you go 3-1 in those 4 games, I think you're in the college football playoff.
At Ashley, you'll find colorful furniture that brings your home to life. Ashley makes it easier than ever to express your personal style with an array of looks in fun trending hues to choose from earth tones to vibrant colors to calming blues and greens. Ashley has pieces for every room in the house in the season's most sought-after shades. A more colorful life starts at Ashley. Shop in store or online today. Ashley, for the love of home.
I thought you said they had to go undefeated.
Well, yeah, to control your own destiny.
But you think they could get in with the one loss?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. You want to go to listener questions?
Yeah, let's go to listener questions.
All right.
We got some
Dalton
good ones
Wag.
today.
We have a lot of them. We're at a 57 minutes.
God.
We gotta roll through them.
Okay.
It's getting late. Your boys got to wake up early for camp. I gotta leave. I gotta hit the road at 7 tomorrow to get to camp in time. Dalton Wagner. Where do you see the biggest jump in special teams? Will it be blocked kicks? You kind of have a hot take when it comes to special teams. You ready?
Yeah. So my hot take isn't that much of a hot take.
Alert.
It's just that some of Holy Cross's like special teams metrics last year were not that hot. They were like one of the worst teams in net punting. And I think it's because they gave up one punt return touchdown in one of the games and it kind of skewed some of the numbers. But they weren't that hot there. Struggled with some of those punting numbers. Their kickoff coverage was pretty good. They didn't block a ton last year, but Terrence Spence blocked a bunch the year before. They are emphasizing special teams. I think some of that is getting overhyped. Every team in the country emphasizes special teams. I feel like there's been this. I do think they care about it a lot, and they talk about it being like the DNA of the program. But I do think some of that where they're like, they're working on special teams. It's like, I assume other programs would be as well. But I would expect some improvement, and I think blocks could be an improvement, sure. But how many did they block last year? 2 punts?
If
3
that,
punts?
1 punt?
I thought they had back-to-back. I thought they blocked one against like Troy or Bucknell. I don't know, but they definitely had the Virginia block for a touchdown. I thought they blocked another against Troy or Bucknell.
Very well could have.
Or Utah State or something.
I'm just excited to have a return man.
I think Petaway is a guy to keep an eye on because he did some returns at Carolina, really shifty. So
this is also from Dalton. Which non-contributor from last season makes the biggest jump this year?
does Hudson count as a non-contributor? I guess he did a little bit, so probably not,
I would
right?
consider Tajee Hudson a non-contributor.
Than him, I think.
Okay. I would say Michael McMullen.
That's a good pick.
Thank you. What was y'all's favorite game ever watching at Bridgeforth? Mine is the epic Weber State comeback in 2017. That's from Danny Wood.
That's a great one. Some honorable mentions. Sam Houston State, Cold Dark Perfect.
Yep.
South Dakota State 10 turnovers, which was such a stupid game. I actually think my favorite, though, was the App State loss last year. I had never seen it. My two favorites, actually, App State loss last year and the Richmond College Game Day loss. I thought those were the two best atmospheres of Bridgeforth I've ever been to, even though they were losses. Those were so much fun.
That's actually a really good answer with the App State loss. I have to say, if I'm not going to App State loss, maybe the Sam Houston State game where it's just an absolute bludgeoning, because that was like the statement to get onto the national stage and the FCS level. It's like, oh, this team's like good.
They killed them.
Alex said, now that you've seen the team practice and all the players we have, what will be our strength this season, offense or defense? Also based on that, what is your prediction for the season?
I think they'll be kind of balanced, so maybe hard to say like the offense is better, the defense is better. I think they'll both be good units. Can I say like the running game will be a strength?
That's what I was going to say. I was going to say the running game. I think offensively the running game will be the strength, and I think defensively the linebacking play will be the strength.
And I'll say they go like 10-2.
What are their two losses? UNC and Charlotte?
UNC and App are the two that jump off the page. But
I'm going to stick to my 9-3 prediction and just be a Debbie Downer.
I think as we get closer to the season, once I see a depth chart, I'm going to pick them to go 12-0. I don't even care. I just know that I will.
Without seeing it too deep in front of me, 9-3, and I think all 3 losses come in the final 3 weeks of the season.
That would be something.
Stephen A.G., 2025 recruiting class looks like a Fuente job with little to no Virginia players. Wow. When a player is from the home state, which has more than enough talent, they are more likely to stay and develop rather than leave in the transfer portal. Why not recruit the state?
Sorry, I just love the Fuente reference. He was talking about building like a Virginia Tech to Texas pipeline, and then they just fired his ass. I think they'll probably add some more Virginia players. I think some of it is they're trying to get talent that fits what they're doing. They're trying to get top end talent for their system. And most of like those 4-star guys don't look at JMU. So then you're looking at a 3-star. Do you really need like a 3-star pipeline when you could get a guy in Florida who maybe fits more than some of the Virginia 3-stars? I don't know. I think they still have a good relationship with the high school coaches. I was also listening to a Petaway interview from the spring, sicko mode today for me. And he was mentioning, they asked like if the previous staff recruited him, and he was like, no, I was a 4-star. So like, no, which I thought was really funny and kind of spot on until JMU's getting like 4 or 5-star kids regularly. And I don't know if that's ever going to happen. It would probably be mixed depending on where the good players that fit the scheme are.
I'll also say the 2025 recruiting class is still very early in the process.
Yeah.
So by the time that they all sign their NLIs, their National Letter of Intents, like in 6 months? No.
December, right? They got that early period.
Yeah. But until then, you really won't have a good understanding of like how it's all shaping up because verbal commitments mean nothing.
You could also have a flurry, right, of like 6 out of the next 7 are like Virginia commits.
Yeah. Nine Finger Craig, has Chesney curtailed his usage of right after every phrase, right?
I actually do think he became aware of it and is using it less in press conferences.
I think he mentioned something to Katie Harper about it. Did she tweet about that?
I don't know if she tweeted about it, but it might have happened at a camp press.
I thought she mentioned that Chesney brought it up during one of the post-practice interviews that he realized how much he said it and was trying to rein that in, right?
I do think he noticed it. So I think we'll have fewer rights, which is a little disappointing.
Right. What are your stat predictions for Dylan Morris and Iowa Dei for the season?
233 for I don't know.
I think Dylan Morris will throw 22 touchdowns to 12 interceptions.
Ew.
And I think Iowa Dei is going to run for 10 touchdowns and 1,500 yards.
1,500.
Yeah, 1,500.
Running back by committee. That'd be electric. Do you think, I was going to ask if you thought anybody would go over 1,000 this year?
Yeah, I think Iowa will. I think we're really hyping up this whole running back by committee 3-headed monster. I think Iowa will dominate 66% of carries.
But he never went over like 20 carries in North Texas in a game.
Yeah, he'll probably get 15 and the other 2 will split 15. Okay, so that's 50%. My math is so wrong. Wow. 83 Duke.
1,500. That's all yards.
We've been fortunate to have extremely accurate field goal kicking in recent years. How does that look in camp?
We got to own up quickly here to our pronunciation starting kicker. I found UConn's pronunciation guide.
I have Chris Brooks's.
Okay, how does he do it?
What's his number?
I don't know. He's the kicker.
Man,
but it's no way.
It's no way Ruelas.
No way Ruelas.
No way Ruelas.
Oh, that's not what UConn.
How do they go? NO-AYE. No way.
They have no way at UConn. Like literally the word way. I think
this
it's
is
no
like
way.
A.
Yeah, so it's no way. And then they also have ROOLIS. Like ROOLIS.
We got ROOELLAS. Ellas. Ruellas. Like Cruella.
Okay, so
but
no way Ruelas. Okay. But I think I was calling him Noah.
I was too. In case the Central Connecticut kicker starts, it looks like Cristiano Rosa. It's Cristiano Rosa.
That's in the guide. Okay. You got me with that one. I was like, oh my God, I've been butchering it. But I think no way the UConn transfer is a very talented kicker and should be the starter.
I agree.
So they should be okay on field goals.
They should be okay with No way. That was good. Come on, that was good.
Just end the podcast.
Let me find we have a lot more questions.
Like forever, too. Not even just this episode. I think we're just done.
Well, is this your way of telling me we have to end it? Is this you breaking up with me after 6 years?
That's right.
What do you think the weakest and strongest position groups are on the team?
Oh, you go first. I need to think.
Weakest? I could say quarterback. Because like if Dylan Morris goes down, I'm very worried. So I'm gonna go weakest is quarterback, but it's like hard to recruit for like a strong quarterback room because you're never really rolling like 3 deep there. So that's kind of a cop-out answer. Strongest? Running back. No. Linebacker.
Yeah, I'll agree. I'll agree with linebacker, and I'll say weakest is receiver. I'm worried if one of those like top 2 that Chesney's referring to get hurt, it's going to become a little dicier.
I don't know if I said that question from Daniel. This is from Ben. What is one position group that still needs to prove itself? Wide receiver.
Can I say a hot-ish takey one?
You're going to say offensive line?
Offensive line. I think they're going to prove themselves, but like, I got to see it in the run game. I want to see them be dogs in the run game. I think they can. And I think some of it might have been bad vision for the backs. But yeah, let's see it from the offensive line.
Savage Duke Dog asked, what's y'all's opinions on preseason polls, especially in the era of the transfer portal? These teams look so different now. Last year's results hardly matter, but these polls dictate good wins and bad losses, fairly or not, so early in the season. Yes and no, Savage Duke Dog. For the next 4 weeks, we'll be able to say if it was a good or a bad win, but then that can change entirely by the end of the season. So say we beat Charlotte, and then on November 30th, it may look like a bad win now, but if Charlotte ends up winning the American Athletic Conference, it will change to a good win. So right now it has big impact on how we view it and maybe how you enter the top 25, the AP top 25, but nothing really matters until the college football playoff releases their top 25, like in week 6.
Yeah, that's a good point, especially in the polls. I thought this was a really, really good question.
Yeah, it's a great question.
The one that I think kind of does screw group of 5 teams are like the advanced metrics that have preseason. So like FPI, SP plus. I think FPI, I'm trying to think the first G5 team in FPI is Boise State of 48. That's ridiculous.
You're also doing the God's work with the FPI.
But it's just ridiculous because that's what ESPN, which is like probably the most prominent network covering college football, right?
Yeah.
So like they're coming out here and telling you what Texas State is 82nd in FPI. You've got, I mean, these teams, some of these teams are like way down there. Georgia Southern 96th. Is Georgia Southern only better than 25 college football teams? I don't know. I find that hard to believe. So I do think some of that stuff is hard because those teams have to work so hard to climb themselves out, where Power 5 teams can lose all these close games, go 5-7, still be a top 50 FPI, where then it looks like a good win for a different program. So I do think the advanced metrics are where they kind of get screwed, and it's a little bit ridiculous, some of the group of 5 stuff on there.
Yeah, my reference about Bennett doing the God's work with FPI, he emailed them and told them that they were mistaken in JMU being eligible for the postseason.
I have to send a follow-up, though, because they haven't updated those percentages.
Sully H. Has Noe Ruelas walked away with the kicker competition? And do you think Chesney is going to be more willing than Signetti to attempt field goals longer than 40 yards?
You see much in camp?
I haven't heard much in camp if he's like run away with it, or I guess kicked his way away with it. So I'll keep an eye on that tomorrow. Is Chesney going to be more willing than Signetti to attempt field goals longer than 40 yards? If Ruelas has the leg.
I think he does. He's got a career long of 54, but it was also like at Utah State, so it was in altitude. So I don't know how much that changes his distance, but some of it, right? Camden Wise wasn't that great outside of 40 yards. That's probably why
Yeah.
he didn't attempt a lot of 40
And Racky didn't have a huge leg.
Yeah, it wasn't necessarily like a fear of doing it. I think it was just understanding his kicker's limits.
Now, will Chesney not go for 40-yard field goals, but go for it on 4th down? Let's hope, instead of punting.
I think that's more possible.
But also, when you have Ryan Hansen, who can literally drill it within the 2-yard line, then that's also a plus.
He's really good.
Bleed Purple Nation. Which 2 to 3 players are you most surprised by so far?
This is a good one.
I'm going to go Michael McMullen.
Yes.
Because, like, this name's come out of nowhere and is just blowing up. And I'm going to go with Weathersby, Gannon Weathersby, the linebacker, because Daniel's really been on him, has been excited about him. Chesney's apparently made some mentions of him. Those are 2 names that were nowhere near my radar coming into fall camp.
Yeah, I would just add Taylor Thompson. I kind of thought he was gonna have a breakout year, but to actually
I've been on him for 12 months already,
but to hear it come to fruition, revenge game for him, week 1,
bro, he's gonna catch like 150 yards. All right, book it now. Taylor Thompson, breakout game for the Dukes, coming at Jerry Richardson Stadium against his former team. You're going to want to buy a ticket just to see the Taylor Thompson performance against the 49ers. I'm saying it now. Taylor Thompson's going to catch 5 passes, 2 for touchdowns, over 100 yards.
That'd be big. That'd be really big.
That's all. Just wait for it. Bill Papp. Would JMU be better off attempting to schedule home and home football games with top G5 as opposed to bottom P4s? Don't ask Chase Kitty, because Chase would say they'd be better off scheduling a home and home with FCS.
I think there's probably benefit to both, right? Like beating a Power 5 team, even if they stink, holds some value. And then like a Boise State series would be incredible. Yeah.
Boise State series, a top G5 series would be great, but kind of going back to what you said about advanced metrics, it would be more beneficial to schedule a bottom P4 because there's a better chance that they are like gonna help your advanced metrics out more than beating a Boise State team.
Georgia Tech right now in FPI 54th. The best team in the American UTSA 56th.
Yeah, so
we are very jealous of Chase's take that the Dukes should ruin a season with a road loss in the Fargo Dome.
If you haven't read, check out Chase Kitty's Twitter, and that's where he posted the link for maybe his hottest take of all time, that JMU and North Dakota State should fire up an old home and home series.
It would be fun.
It would be fun, but no. How's Dylan Morris looking? Like quarterback 1?
Dog.
Like the dog he is with his unconventional release. All right. Well, we did it. Hour and 15. Anything else you got to add after this podcast?
Like, subscribe, quick tease. Barring any major setbacks, we got Phil Steele, little interview tomorrow. We'll post that up on the YouTube soon. Excited to talk to him. We got a lot of good stuff coming.
Yeah, so keep up to date with everything that's happening. Our home on the web is jmusportsnews.com. You can follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, at JMU Sports News. Buy us a coffee, buy Bennett a tea, buy us both a beer at buymeacoffee.com/JMU Sports News. Thank you to everyone that has already done so. It means a lot to us.
Reagan's dad, Mike.
Yeah.
Just brought us 3.
Thank you, Mike. That's awesome. We're greatly appreciative of it. We're looking to keep the content going. We're looking to kind of bolster everything. So buying us a coffee isn't really a coffee. I mean, it might go towards a beer or 2 here and there, but it's being reinvested into the podcast and trying to grow this thing out more and more by the day. We have like we said earlier in the podcast, a new podcast we're launching later this month. So be sure
it's going to be a good one.
Yes.
Like,
should we play the teaser open for it?
Sure. I mean, if they made it this far in the podcast.
Let me see if I can get to it.
Does it name names in the podcast?
Yeah, it names everything.
If you want to, man. If you want to just give it away, you can. This is your launch, I guess.
Should we do it?
No.
No?
Save it.
Save it. Okay. All right. So for Bennett Conlon.
Or play like 2 seconds of it.
I got to add the music and everything. 1 second.
If you made it this far, congratulations. Also, why do they have, they have like 3 guys and some numbers? Like 3 players are wearing number 18? Huh? They have 3 number 10s? What is this? I noticed that today. I was like, why?
That's all. That's all.
Let's leave with that next time. I want to talk about the numbers. I'll write that in my notes.
All right. Well, for Bennett Conlon, I'm Jack Fitzpatrick. Thank you for bearing with us here these last few minutes and throughout this entire podcast. Lots of great stuff coming. This has been the JMU Sports News Podcast presented by Bet Online. We'll see you guys next week. See ya.
At Ashley, you'll find colorful furniture that brings your home to life. Ashley makes it easier than ever to express your personal style with an array of looks in fun trending hues to choose from earth tones to vibrant colors to calming blues and greens. Ashley has pieces for every room in the house in the season's most sought-after shades. A more colorful life starts at Ashley. Shop in store or online today. Ashley, for the love of home.
Hey, it's Michelle Beadle. That's right, the Michelle Beadle. You're welcome. You love talking about sports. I love talking about sports. You know the only thing cooler than talking about sports? Sports! And right now, all your favorite sports are on Sirius XM. I'm talking every NFL game, every game from the NBA, NHL, MLB, every NASCAR race, golf major conference college sports, and all the top games in the WNBA. If it gets your heart pumping, it's on Sirius XM. So start your free trial of Sirius XM today. Visit SiriusXM.com/believe.